Now, I could be asking myself, why am I like this? And don't worry, I am, but instead, I am a genius. Or at least that's how I feel. So this is my FCC setup in a Moterm Luxe Personal 2.0, whatever that is, and my Pocket setup in a Moterm Pocket Luxe 2.0. Now, I have a Moterm Elite that's FCC sized, and I will show that one at some point. I'm going to do a comparison video of the two types of covers in an upcoming video. But first, I wanted to show you my Pocket and my FCC side by side. So if you're wondering how we ended up in here, you need to go watch the video linked down in the description below of the Pocket jump scare, because it very much is a jump scare and a, well, this was not on the bingo card moment, but the beauty of this and this is that they are both set up almost identically. And I want to show you the side by side while I have both things set up and there's stuff in both planners. Now, full disclosure, a lot of these inserts in here are purchased pre-printed. A lot of these inserts in here are printed and cut, and I hated every second of it. So if I'm going to be in here, I'm likely going to be getting some pre-printed physical inserts and likely getting 2026 dated inserts, so that way I can very easily pop between either this one or this one as we go. Now, if I don't use the printed dated inserts and they end up being past the date I use them, I will redate them and use them, and they are still printed and pre-cut and ready to go, which is not the problem. The problem is me having to like physically cut everything. As long as the paper is there, I am more than happy to redate something, and so it will not go to waste. So that is one thing that I know that I will do, because I am perfectly happy dating something, and I like that option because then I won't feel wasteful. I know that I almost always end up back in rings. I didn't realize how much of a rings girly I really ended up being. I thought, oh, bound book has my heart. That's where I'm going to stay. I loved my TN. I still love my TN. I still have one of my TN covers, but I ended up destashing some of my stuff. I always somehow end up back in rings after setting up a rings planner a couple years ago. I just keep getting sucked back in. So if you want more information on how we got here from here, go check out the video down below. But first things first, I want to show you the sections of the planner and how they're set up. Figuring out how to get these both in the frame is a little bit interesting, so please excuse any weirdness on the angle. But in the Pocket, I don't have any type of extra jelly dashboard or leather flyleaf with the loop. I do have this leather flyleaf for the apricot, but even in this leather flyleaf is very thick, very cumbersome. But the first thing in both of these sections is going to be what I call annual section, and that's going to have some annual calendars. This one specifically has just a DIY little future log with some important dates. And this has in it some 2026 fold outs. And I actually pulled a lot of these out because I wasn't using them. So I needed to save some space. And then the second section that I have in here is going to be my finance section. So I'm not going to show you the fine details of my finance section, but all you need to know is they're generally made up of a budget tracker of some kind, an expense tracker, and an income log, which is essentially this log, but instead of expense tracker, it says income log. In my Pocket, I have in here all my budget and expenses inside these folders because frankly, y'all don't need to know my business. And these little folders also help me keep all the separate sections organized because I manage not just my finances, but my business's finances and my mother's finances. And then I have some order trackers, things like that. Now, where things differ just a little bit in this setup is in my next section, my finance section. Here it's before, and there's really no rhyme or reason to that. That's just how it landed. But I have a last time I log, so this is sort of a adulting log, and then I don't have it in my Pocket yet, but I have this routines insert in this FCC. Now you'll notice this routines is blank because I'm still figuring out how I want to set this up. So I'm probably not going to even bother printing or putting anything into my Pocket until I have it mapped out, which is getting mapped out in my Notion, because I'm thinking I would love to have routines for the various sections of my life, which is likely how I'm going to actually reset up the last time because this like this one going all the way across already doesn't jive with some of these that only have one or two or three things. So doing a last time I for different life areas and routines for different life areas to have as a reference and sort of a trigger list for when I'm doing my daily, weekly, monthly planning is going to be really helpful. So that's what's going to go in both. But everything, the annual and everything like that is sort of in the beginning. Now, the next section in here is going to be my monthly. Now, where this differs here is because the sizes are different, I track different things in my monthly. So in here, I'm tracking my medications, my appointments, and all of that information, and my workouts. In here, I'm tracking just my workouts, chiropractic, and massage. And you'll see where this additional information of my different medications and peptides that I use is housed still in my rings, just in a different format. So that's the difference here. These are both from May Paper Co. Now, this is where we get into the weeklies. So in this weekly, okay, I'll show you this. I started putting, rather than having a separate gratitude log, started putting a bit of my memory keeping and gratitude in this horizontal weekly, so that I could then eventually go back into my A6 and fill it back in. I make a little date of it on a weekly basis, and it's really fun. But that wasn't going to work because, again, the size dictates how you use the space. So I have this horizontal weekly that is just undated that I'm using as this setup here. This setup is still here, but instead of my gratitude or highlight of the day, I'm putting my medications. So my medications that are also in my monthlies here are no longer in the monthly, they're in the weekly. And then I just added a separate weekly to track the gratitude, and then the monthly holds my workouts. So same information, very similar layouts, just shuffled around a bit. Then I have obviously my vertical weekly. Now, what's different about the vertical weekly here is that the vertical weekly for Pocket is almost non-existent. This is from Infinite Lotus, and obviously because of the size, the only thing that you can do is put the appointments in. This is very important. I've explained this before, but I have multiple Google calendars that all sync to my iCal that don't just have appointments in it. It has a lot of other information in it as well. I just need to pull out what I need. Now, I have some other important information in here. I was keeping some priority to-dos here, but I've moved that into my inbox section that's at the back of this notebook, and that's working just fine this past week. And actually it works better because I generally don't reference my weeklies for a to-do. It's more of like a reminder. I end up pulling that information into another area anyway, so that's totally fine. But I have to have a vertical weekly, and I'm so grateful that Infinite Lotus makes these. And so they do have a physical copy of this same vertical weekly that I am planning to pick up because it's just so important. Now, theirs is undated and they sell it in 14-week packs. So it's about 3 months worth of vertical weeklies. So I may grab at least one, maybe two. We'll start with one. If I need more, I'll buy more later. Then we move into the dailies, which are literally the same type of thing and setup that I was using prior. So here's I don't have all my dailies from before because, well, I moved into my Pocket rings and I had taken all my October dailies out and I've already archived them. But similar is I have a timeline and I have a to-do list and then some notes. This is a daily plan printable from Infinite Lotus. This one's from May Paper Co., but I use the same May Paper Co. setup also in here. You guys have seen them and I love them. They're fantastic. Do I have one in here? No. Oh, I was using actually Lily Paper Co. here for this week as well, which is great. Now, the next section is my inbox. Now, I have actually not used any of this color coding. I want to, but this will be a problem for future me. I have all these notes, to-do list, inbox for professional, and then personal. And then in the Pocket, imagine that, I have all of my notes, inbox, and lists for professional and then personal. So identical setup here in the back. And this will go into a slightly different setup here in the Pocket because in the FCC, I actually have more of my inbox first then notes. Whereas in the Pocket, I just combined inbox and notes together, this is really more inbox, project lists, and notes in that order for personal and professional. This was all inboxes and then work notes, personal notes, okay? But this is just all together split up. Why? That's just how it worked out. That's just what made sense in my head. I probably will do the same thing when I come back in here, and rather than have separate inbox and then notes, I'll just make it professional, personal, and all of it is the same because I actually really like this functionality better. But that is basically the same setup in both. Okay, look at this. Same setup, same inserts. Where did these go? Oh, here we go. These that I need to put in here. Same everything, just big and little. So the functionality has stayed identical. It's just the size that's different. And the difference is that how I use these is a little less overwhelming. It feels less big because it's literally smaller. And something about the fact that on the Pocket, you use all the writing space, where this can be very empty. I wonder if I have a daily that's a little more empty in here. But like, why am I adding so many things to my list? Like, can you not? Like, what are you doing? And this even feels like it was very spacious, which is fine. Don't get me wrong, it's fine. But something about this weekly just is a little more satisfying at a glance, right? So they're identical, just in a different font. And the functionality is the same. And so that's what I wanted to show everybody is even though the book might change, the system has not. And in very similar when I'm bullet journaling too, very similar setup. And so I even have in my FCC some stuff that I haven't actually moved into here because there's such big lists that if I'm going to work on these things, I will just come in here, snap a photo of it and reference it. They're not things that I need to do right now, and maybe I'll duplicate them into my Pocket at some point. I just haven't had time yet. But for the most part, even my notes. So let's take an example of my TBR list. It's in here somewhere. Oh, here we go. TBR. So TBR items. I have the same list here in my FCC. Same information. So as I add to this list, what'll happen is when I get done with this size and I want to move back in FCC, I will go through and audit the information and then just update this reference information. That's literally it. I will go in and audit the information in here and then just add to this information so that the reference information is consistent across both. But then that keeps me from having to duplicate things. And that's why I also like getting these pre-printed inserts is because the paper quality is so good. I know it's going to last, right? Even these printables I did for Pocket, these are on 32-pound Hammermill bright white office paper. This is going to be fine. It's going to stand the test of time. It's not going to fall apart. So I'm really pleased about this particular setup, and I'm very excited to see how long I decide to stay in Pocket. And I love that I've given myself the option to very easily switch between Pocket and FCC. So if you guys have any questions on sort of the setup, how I use the different things, where I've gotten certain things, I will do my best to link everything below. Like I mentioned, a lot of these printables, they're things that I already had. Maybe some of them I got them on like a $2 Tuesday, and I did spend a little money on some of the inserts just to get the dated printables. But again, we're already in October at the point when I was setting it up, so a lot of them were marked down quite a bit, so it wasn't an exorbitant amount of money. But what do you think? FCC, Pocket? I'm actually really surprised that I'm functioning in Pocket as well as I am, especially with the 30mm rings in here. Previously, when I tried the 30mm rings, when I did Pocket wide, I didn't like them, but right now they're not driving me nuts, which I'm very grateful for. So I just wanted to show you guys sort of the side-by-side of the setup because the functionality and sections are basically identical. And I'm wondering, I'm really curious, does anybody have something similar where you've got the same exact thing set up and ready to just move in between in 2 different sizes? Just me? Let me know what you guys are using to get through the end of 2025. Thank you guys so much for being here, and I'll catch you on the next one.